What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that I know you guys wanted us to do, and we definitely weren't going to miss, but, you know, timing and getting all this stuff out, yeah, it took some work.
Timing is 9/10 of the law.
Sure that's not possession?
It's timing. No one wants to talk about possession. No one.
So we are going to go over the latest offering from Necrophobic in the Twilight Grey. This also comes out on the 15th of March on Century Media Records. This band formed in 1989 in Sweden. This is their 10th album overall. I really enjoyed the last two in particular, Mark of the Necrogram and Dawn of the Damned. We actually reviewed Dawn of the Damned on here, and for those that don't know, this band is one of like the OG blackened death metal bands. Like this band has been around forever. I got into them with their debut, The Nocturnal Silence. It was kind of like right after I started getting into black metal. I was like, oh, I'll check this out. And I was like, oh, this is really cool and really melodic. And yeah, I think I found a new band to follow.
And I got into them late because that's how it works for me. A lot of you know I was not really a big black metal fan for a long time, and then little by little I started getting into it. And then with the last record I was like, well, this is pretty cool, I could hang with this. And then this record, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool, I can hang with this, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, chipping away slowly, but, you know, you're breaking down that little wall around, like, I don't know about this black metal.
Right, I don't know about this stuff. We're chipping down the wall little by little. Before you know it, there will be no wall and
be in full corpse paint and leather armor.
Right, exactly.
Wielding an axe. I live in the mountains now.
It'll be MDF 2025. You won't even recognize me.
Like Jammin John, also Kung Fu Panda. So I was pretty excited for this one and heard a lot of good things. And I mean, flat out, I'll be honest, this band is grossly consistent. Across the board, I don't think they have a bad album. I think like maybe Wound of Lilithu was a little bit weaker, but overall it was still really solid. So pretty much going into this, I kind of had like the same expectations I have with every album because generally they're really good. And honestly, right from the rip, it opens up just kind of like what I thought it would. Straight up Necrophobic. Like melodic riffs. Every riff on this entire album is harmonized. Lots of great lead play, blast beats, ghastly vocals. You know, you have that classic sound still. This band really hasn't had to change their sound because they're kind of one of the pioneers of it. Grace of the Past is pretty much a straight up Necrophobic song right away. You get a good clean intro. It's haunting. It's melodic. Lots of great riffs, and I'm going to be saying that a lot because, I mean, Necrophobic knows how to do riffs and hooks. And part of that, I think, is due to the fact that I think a lot of their death metal influence in terms of the death metal side of things is very much attached to like melodic death metal, like bands like Hypocrisy. I feel like there's still a lot of that in them. But for the most part, I would say this band just kind of lays on the black metal side because this likes to drone on tremolos, stay on those static blast beats. The vocals are 100% black metal.
Yes. And
yeah, like the formula really hasn't changed very much, but there's some fun wrinkles on this album.
Yeah, you get into songs like Blackened the Horizon, and that song just kind of immediately jumped out to me because the main riff in that song has a little bendy.
Yeah.
And there's something about bendy riffs, especially when they're done a little bit darker and a little bit more dissonant. Like, there's something about bendy riffs that just, ooh, love it. And then the song Clavis Inferni is straight up the mosher. Very thrashy, double-time grooves all over the place, little gallops, even a little machine gun riff pocket after the second lead.
Yeah, a big thrashy bite to that, like, you know, machine gun riffs. It's the pit spinner. And it feels like old school in a different sense, like not old school black metal or even old school death metal. It's kind of like, you know, a little bit of a Motorhead or Overkill sort of vibe. It even has a fun big finish on there. Like, this is the part where they try to exhaust all their fans. Like, no, keep spinning. You can spin for this entire song. So pretty much all the things that I like about Necrophobic are once again on display, as I pretty much expected. Again, you have this great balance of sinister riffs, but you also have just huge melodies on here. There are so many cool guitar parts on here. I would probably have to say every track, because every track there's always some clever harmony or really good layering in terms of like dissonant melodies and tremolo harmonies. Tremolo harmonies all over the place.
Yeah, from the very beginning all the way to the title track and the Twilight Grey, it's non-stop tremolo and non-stop tremolo harmony. And it even gets a little darker here and there, too.
Yeah, there's, like, clever ways they go about making songs darker. Like, it's almost kind of like that difference between, like, spooky and, like, really evil. The kind of bouncy riff that is on Shadows of the Brightest Night, it has this really good instrumental buildup. Like, it is a good long buildup. You get a lot of good progression. Like, it gets more intense, more sinister. And then as the verse kicks in, you get this, I don't know, like this cleverly plucked riff, like, and it's like skeletons dancing. And
oddly, it was weird. At very first glance, it reminded me of System of a Down, which doesn't make any sense for this band, but it's got that kind of like...
Yeah. It's kind of playful, and even like the lead melodies around it, like it kind of has like, I don't know, like a kind of a gothy sort of
yeah.
I don't want to say like Danny Elfman, but maybe a little Danny Elfman. But I like the way that verse comes in, because like it opens up sinister, cold, atmospheric, and then all of a sudden we're kind of having fun, and that's, you know, kind of a thing that I liked about Clavis Inferni was like, all right, we had the big black metal opener. Now we're getting down to the thrashy stuff and kind of opening up and having fun. And that's kind of the fun thing about this album is from track to track, yeah, you get a lot of stuff that is just 100% necrophobic, but there's a lot of stuff on here that are just a little bit outside of what they usually do to kind of spice it up. Mirror of a Thousand Lakes is another like more atmospheric jam on here. I love the build up. Again, wall of tremolo harmonies. It's very intense and cold, like the black metal side really kind of just comes out on this one. But when it gets down the bridge, this bridge is really cool. There's some Middle Eastern flavor to the riffs, an amazing solo on it. Like, this has one of the best solos on here, and that is definitely saying something because I really liked every lead on here. There's definitely like a touch of like Melakesh, or I would even say Necrotic, especially on this last album we went over, which was an absolute banger. But I love this whole bridge. This whole bridge really kind of shows off like a little bit more creativity in terms of like, you know, navigating around and getting back to like what they're doing, which is a big thing on here. They always come back to riffs, especially towards the end. Like if you like that chorus riff, or if you liked a certain riff that kind of opened up the song, there's a good chance you're going to hear it again.
And then it gets downright aggressive, and this is where I really started to tune in. Not that I wasn't tuned in already, but the song Cast in Stone is right out of the gate, super blasty. It's got these big beefy tremolos in it. Just sounds darker and meaner, and it's like the death metal side just comes out to play finally. Just like, boom, all right, we're here.
Yeah, there's some great galloping riffs on there, and just, again, like melodic, but like meaner, more aggressive.
Yep. It's got a really rad descending riff in it too. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, again, riffs everywhere. You're guaranteed riffs with Necrophobic, and there's also some good like epic, bright, anthemic songs. Like, yes, we are charging into battle, but for Satan. Like, we're the bad guys, but we're trying to get the bad guys motivated. Songs like As Stars Collide and the absolute banger Nordavind. I think that's how you say that. That song in particular is a big standout for me. It is notably like one of the more slower, more brooding songs. But holy hell, the main riff on there, when the verse comes in, like that thing is just got like Judas Priest written all over. Like, it's classic sort of metal hook. It is anthemic. It is just right there. Like, yeah, let's go. We're going into battle.
And catchy. Catchy is all get out. A lot of these songs are catchy. Shadows of the Brightest Night, Mirrors of a Thousand Lakes, Nordavind. It's all just catchy at this point, too. Like, the little earworms just stuck. They're there.
Yeah, and again, that kind of just circles back to like this band's awesome guitar work. Like, they're frequently layering in melodies, so like none of these riffs feel like very empty. There's always something to accentuate them, whether it is an awesome lead melody or a cool vocal pattern, or sometimes just a flat out big hook. And one of the biggest ones for me was the title track. That tremolo, it has one of the brightest sounds to it. It's so catchy. Like, there's just like an anthemic quality, all while still sounding very sinister, very menacing at times. There's some good thrashy chugs that pop up, but that main melody that carries throughout the majority of that song, which it is almost 8 minutes long,
and
it is just a riff fest. The catchy melodic harmonies at the end especially, because they just kind of lay on that big main riff and kind of ride it out into the sunset. Or, I imagine it's already dark when this band's playing because I don't think they come out during the day. But, you have these awesome harmonies at the end. Like, it is just like, yes, that is a fiercely epic metal moment. And honestly, it would cap off this album really well. But you had some extra stuff in here because I had the bonus track version. And kind of making up for the fact that I didn't get the Judas Priest bonus track version, which I'm still probably going to get because I hear those extra songs are really good. But the bonus tracks in here were a lot of fun as well. We've already brought up one, Blackened the Horizon, which is just a vicious, dark song. There's a little bit of melancholy in the beginning, but you get that vicious, kind of more just flat-out black metal energy. But the big surprise was the cover they did of Wasp's The Torture Never Stops. And I officially think I am long overdue in terms of listening to some Wasp, because that cover is awesome.
Yes, I need to hear the original, because they did a really good job, dude. The leads in that song are killer. Obviously, they didn't write them, but
they played them.
Yeah, I may have to dig into Wasp myself, because I always kind of looked at Wasp and just been like, nah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I thought they were a glam band for so long.
I thought they were a glam band, too.
They just had, cooler props, like Blackie Lawless's infamous buzzsaw codpiece. Like, all right, that's a little bit more threatening than, I don't know, any picture I've ever seen of, like, Poison.
Yeah, that's true.
But I kind of lumped them in there. But, yeah, they actually just tear up this cover. Like, it's fun. They got the galloping riffs in there. And it's kind of interesting, like, this would be, like, a really cool closer for the album in terms of a bonus version, because a lot of this is very sinister, dark, and menacing. Loads of melody, of course. Like, if you're a big Dissection fan, there's a good chance you're also a Necrophobic fan. But closing with this cover, it kind of just lightens up the mood, even though, like, you're a woman being put on the rack and being tortured right away. It's like 80s horror fun. You're fine. She got paid like $50 for that scene back in like 1982. She's doing great. She's like a grandma of like 4.
And $50 in 1982, that's like $1,000 now.
You might be able to get an Atari 2600, maybe. But I just like the vibe of that kind of closing down as like a fun party, and again, they nail this cover. But this album is not without some issues. One issue that kind of struck me was the last track, Ascension, episode 4, which feels very tacked on.
Yeah, like, and don't get me wrong, I kind of just dug it. It sounded sinister, and the guitar lead really howls, and the groovy snare march. But at the same time, like, why?
Yeah, it feels like they put the intro in the wrong place. And as an outro, I don't know if it necessarily works because it has a building to it. Like, there's more layers being added. The lead comes out. You get the marching siren. It feels like it's going towards something and then it just stops. Like, that could have been the place where, like, the opening track would have come in.
Right.
So I don't know why that one is there. And there were some other issues, namely, all right, this band has a great straight-ahead attack. And a lot of that is due to the very stampeding nature of the drums. But the drums do get a little static on here.
Mostly because 70% of this album, he is playing either a D beat or a double time groove or a blast. And it's really in, like, the same time signature. And it's the same groove. And, like, you're like, yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad you're in the pocket, but get out of the pocket. See what else happens outside of the pocket. There's a lot of cool things that can happen outside of the pocket. And he does it much later in the album.
But he goes right back to the pocket. And, I feel like there's a comfort zone. I mean, it does, again, give the songs, like, a driving nature. But I feel like we're staying, like, the same speed the entire time. Like, the cruise control's on. And, again, like, it's not a bad drum performance. It's just, like, there's some really cool creative melodies on here. And even, like, some fun vocal cadences where... like an interesting accent or something like that could have added a lot.
I mean, he could have done a lot just to play on the offbeat or just to play some accents on the offbeat. Like, it could have switched up things enough because the guitars are definitely doing things that would allow for him to think a little bit outside the box. And I mean, not that this band is really known for being much more than straightforward, but I mean, like, you could toy around a little bit and it would have fit.
And some of these songs do kind of feel drawn out at times.
Right.
As Stars Collide, while it is, I think, just a little bit over 5 minutes, it kind of just drags. And there's kind of a reason in terms of like the songs that dragged the most. It's generally in one spot, and it is almost always the chorus, because there's a lot of words in their choruses, and I feel like they are a little bit drawn out, and they like to repeat them like multiple times, especially towards the end of the songs. And while I really like the vocals, he's had a awesome delivery throughout his entire career. I do feel like they kind of double everything, and he's got a great natural sound. Like, even on the last two albums, I don't think they did as much to his vocals as they did on here. There's definitely a high and a low that's constantly going. I don't think there's a lot of moments where they're isolated, and there's like a fair amount of effects in them, but it's not like a deal breaker. It's just something I noticed, and I mean, overall, I really like the production on here. It sounds solid, sounds full, and, you know, the riffs really shine, especially the leads. So, yeah, overall, I really dug this. And, you know, I'm not super surprised that I did, because I've liked pretty much every album that this band has put out. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. This is another banger from a band that has 9 other bangers. 8, you know, maybe. I don't know. That one was, it was okay. This is pretty much Necrophobic doing Necrophobic, but I do like the more epic touches that come towards the end, because I do think this album is a little bit more backloaded than it is front-loaded. But this has got the things that I expect from them. Amazing riffs, great harmonies. The guitar work is just kind of the scene stealer on this entire album, as it is on a lot of their albums. Great lead work. There's just good, dynamic, catchy hooks everywhere. And, you know, while they do take a little bit of time to kind of just settle into their sound, when they kind of get a little bit outside of that, I think it shows, you know, there's still a lot of creativity on this band for a band that's been around as long as they have. If you're a longtime Necrophobic fan, you were going to like this, because it sounds just like what you would expect from Necrophobic. But also, if you're a fan of bands like, again, Naglfar, Hypocrisy, and I would say if you really enjoyed the newest Necroretch in particular, you're going to find some stuff that you will also dig on here, so check this out.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. I'm still, once again, getting used to this side of metal, so while there were things I loved, dude, the riff work is insane. When I started to write down riffs, I realized I just wrote down every song, so that was something. And then when I started to write down leads, I realized that really I wrote down every song. The leads are awesome, the riffs are awesome. It's got good groove. I like when it gets darker. There were a lot of like brighter tremolo moments, at least towards the beginning of the album. Towards the end, it got a lot darker and a lot more sinister, and it just started to resonate more with me. I think that's where I really latched on to. I thought the beginning half of the record, I don't want to say it was weak, but it was just like there wasn't a lot going on, and a lot of the grooves were the same, and like a lot of the patterns for the drums were the same, and I was just like, yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's not bad, but it really, for me, it opened up when it got to the back half of the record. And like I said, that's where it just kind of really resonated for me. This whole album definitely jams. I don't want to take away from that. Like, I didn't stop banging my head. There were just times where I banged my head a lot harder. But that's what this band does. The more I learn about this band, and like Nick said, if you're a fan of Necrophobic, you're still going to be a fan of Necrophobic. Or Hypocrisy. If you like Hypocrisy, you're probably going to dig this band, and definitely Necroretch. That whole album makes a whole lot more sense after listening to more Necrophobic. It just does.
If I was a betting man, I would say that Necroretch are big Necrophobic fans. It's definitely got a lot of similarities.
Yeah. But yeah, overall 3.5 stars. It was still a banger. I'd recommend checking it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel up in the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you are looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have new shirts. We have old shirts that are discounted, provided we have your size, and we even have hats too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
Last but not least, here we are, once again at the end of the video, where we thank you profusely for your participation in Thralls of Metal. We genuinely appreciate you. This thing just gets bigger and bigger all the time, and it blows my mind that many people are still paying attention to Thralls of Metal 5 years later. As always, tons of stuff coming your way. Album reviews. Man, we're only halfway through this month, and there's still like 20 albums that come out this month. Not to mention the other 8 months in the year. tons of stuff coming from that direction. Got collection updates, got States of Metal, got Nick's heavy but not metal, or maybe it is metal, or I don't know. Discography rankings, the Meshuggah's next. That's all I gotta say. Meshuggah's next. I'm really super stoked on that. But yeah, once again, we couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you to all of you for your participation and continuing to show us support. Blows my mind, Nick.
Yeah, mind still blown. Been blown for a while. Like right around 1,000 subscribers, it was blown. No, seriously, you guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you for every bit of support you've given us. And with that, I will say, we will catch you later.